Every year, 600,000 people die from cancer in the U.S. alone, 1,600 each day. So why are we still losing this battle despite decades of research and treatment? The answer may not lie in our genes, as many believe. Dr. Thomas Siford is challenging the core of modern oncology. He argues that cancer isn't a genetic disease, but a metabolic one rooted in damaged mitochondria, the tiny energy factories in our cells. In this video, we'll explore Dr. Siford's revolutionary theory, how mitochondrial dysfunction fuels cancer, and what you can do to fight back using metabolic strategies that target cancer at its core. The startling cancer statistics. Every day, 1,600 people in the U.S. lose their lives to cancer. That's more than 600,000 deaths a year, an absolutely staggering number. And despite years of medical advancements and treatments, these numbers continue to climb. In fact, cancer is now the second leading cause of death in the U.S., only behind heart disease. So, why isn't the problem getting better? Experts and doctors continue to push forward with treatments like chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. But the overall death rate keeps rising. This raises a tough question. If modern medicine really has a clear understanding of how to beat cancer, why do we keep seeing these overwhelming numbers year after year? The truth is, our understanding of cancer and its origins may not be as complete as we think. Traditional cancer research has focused heavily on genetic mutations, believing that cancer starts when our DNA is damaged, leading to uncontrollable cell growth. But as we'll explore in this video, Dr. Thomas Siford is challenging this conventional view. Dr. Siford argues that cancer isn't primarily caused by genetic mutations. Instead, he believes it starts with a breakdown in the cell's energy system, the mitochondria. These energy-producing powerhouses are vital for the health and function of our cells, and when they're damaged, it disrupts the entire cell's metabolism. This shift in energy production could be the real root cause of cancer, leading to uncontrolled cell division and tumor formation. So, as the death toll rises each year, perhaps it's time we reconsider how we approach cancer, and look beyond genetics to address the true underlying cause: metabolic dysfunction at the cellular level. The Warburg effect. Nearly 100 years ago, a groundbreaking discovery changed our understanding of cancer. Otto Warburg, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, uncovered something truly astonishing. Cancer cells behave in a completely different way from healthy cells when it comes to energy production. Unlike normal cells that use oxygen to produce energy, cancer cells rely on fermentation, an inefficient process that doesn't need oxygen. Even in the presence of oxygen, cancer cells continue to ferment sugar to fuel their growth. This phenomenon is known as the Warburg effect, and it's a hallmark of cancer cells. Warburg's discovery was revolutionary at the time, but over the years, the focus of cancer research shifted toward genetic mutations as the primary cause of cancer. The idea that cancer was primarily a metabolic issue got overshadowed. But now Dr. Thomas Siford is bringing Warburg's findings back into the spotlight. He argues that this metabolic shift is not just a characteristic of cancer cells. It's the key to understanding how cancer begins. According to Dr. Siford, when mitochondria, the cell's energy generators, become damaged, they lose their ability to produce energy efficiently through oxygen. As a result, the cell switches to fermentation, much like cancer cells do. The real shocker here is that this shift in energy production doesn't just happen in cancer cells, it can occur in healthy cells as well, turning them into cancerous cells over time. This damaged energy production, called mitochondrial dysfunction, could be the underlying cause of all cancers, not just a genetic mutation in the DNA. And the mutations that are commonly seen in cancer cells? Dr. Siford suggests they are more of a symptom, not the cause, of this metabolic breakdown. This new perspective flips everything we thought we knew about cancer on its head. Mitochondria and energy. To truly understand why Dr. Thomas Siffords' theory on cancer makes so much sense, we need to take a step back and look at the mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells. These tiny organelles are responsible for producing the energy that keeps every cell in our body functioning. Without healthy mitochondria, our cells can't perform their essential functions properly. Every cell in your body relies on mitochondria to convert the oxygen we breathe into energy in the form of ATP. This process is known as oxidative phosphorylation. It's the most efficient way for the body to generate the energy it needs to maintain everything from brain function to digestion. Healthy mitochondria enable your cells to stay in a stable, quiescent state, doing exactly what they're supposed to do without overreacting or growing uncontrollably. However, when the mitochondria are damaged, whether due to toxins, stress, aging, or other environmental factors, the process of oxidative phosphorylation breaks down. The cells are no longer able to produce energy efficiently. Instead, they shift to a backup energy system: fermentation. This backup process, though less effective, allows the cells to survive when the primary energy source is compromised. However, this shift comes with a major downside. Cells start to grow and divide uncontrollably, which is the defining characteristic of cancer. In the case of cancer, this chronic energy disruption forces the cell to rely on sugar fermentation, even when oxygen is available. This is where things get dangerous. Without proper regulation, these cells begin to divide uncontrollably, eventually forming tumors. Over time, the damage to mitochondria, combined with the uncontrollable cell division, leads to the formation of cancer. So, mitochondrial dysfunction isn't just a side effect, it's at the core of the disease. Dr. Siffords' groundbreaking work shifts the focus from genetic mutations to energy dysfunction, suggesting that the root cause of cancer lies in damaged metabolism rather than faulty DNA. This understanding opens the door to new approaches in treating and preventing cancer, approaches that focus on restoring proper cellular energy function. Causes of mitochondrial damage. Mitochondria are essential for cell function, providing the energy needed for normal cellular activities. But when these tiny powerhouses are damaged, it can have disastrous consequences for the entire cell. One of the primary causes of mitochondrial dysfunction is the exposure to chemical carcinogens. These harmful substances, found in things like tobacco smoke, environmental pollution, and industrial chemicals, can directly damage the mitochondria, impairing their ability to produce energy effectively. This damage doesn't just affect the mitochondria, it creates a chain reaction that disrupts the entire metabolic process of the cell, ultimately leading to the conditions that favor cancer development. Another significant factor in mitochondrial damage is hypoxia, or low oxygen levels in the body. This can occur intermittently due to factors like poor circulation, sleep apnea, or even high-altitude living. The mitochondria rely on oxygen to produce energy efficiently, and when oxygen is scarce, they're forced to switch to less efficient methods of energy production. This shift, while necessary for short-term survival, puts a strain on the cells, increasing the risk of mutations and, eventually, cancer. Radiation is another major player in mitochondrial damage. Whether it's from the sun, medical treatments, or environmental exposure, radiation can directly alter the DNA within the mitochondria, impairing their function. Over time, this damage can accumulate, leading to the kind of cellular dysfunction that allows cancer cells to take hold. As we age, our mitochondria naturally begin to degrade. The body's ability to repair mitochondrial DNA diminishes over time, and oxidative stress, caused by an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants, accelerates this decline. The result is a gradual decrease in mitochondrial function, which leaves cells vulnerable to cancerous transformations. Viral infections like hepatitis or human papillomavirus, HPV, can also wreak havoc on mitochondrial function. Some viruses can directly infect the mitochondria, causing them to lose their ability to generate energy efficiently. This can lead to chronic inflammation and metabolic disruptions, which are prime conditions for cancer cell formation. And, while genetic mutations are often blamed for mitochondrial dysfunction, the truth is that these mutations are typically the result of environmental factors. Mitochondrial DNA can be damaged by toxins, viruses, or radiation, which can lead to mutations that further impair the mitochondria's ability to function. The root of many chronic diseases, including cancer, often traces back to mitochondrial dysfunction. Environmental toxins, stress, aging, and infections all contribute to a gradual breakdown of the mitochondria's energy-producing capacity. This damage sets the stage for metabolic dysfunction that allows cancer cells to thrive. Understanding these causes gives us a new perspective on how cancer develops and, importantly, how we can work to prevent it by protecting the mitochondria from the damage that fuels the disease. Cancer as a metabolic disease. Dr. Thomas Siffords' theory is a radical departure from what we've long been told about cancer. Instead of focusing on cancer as a disease of genetic mutations, Dr. Siffords argues that cancer is primarily a metabolic disease. He believes that the root cause of cancer isn't faulty genes, but damaged mitochondria, the energy-producing parts of the cell. Think about it. Every cell in your body has its own unique job, whether it's a liver cell, a muscle cell, or a brain cell. And every one of these cells relies on mitochondria to produce the energy it needs to carry out its function. When mitochondria become damaged, they can no longer perform their job effectively. This doesn't just stop the cell from working properly, it causes the cell to undergo a profound shift in how it produces energy. Under normal circumstances, cells generate energy using oxygen, a process known as oxidative phosphorylation. This is efficient and sustainable, but when mitochondria are damaged, they can't produce energy through oxidative phosphorylation anymore. The cell switches to an alternate form of energy production known as fermentation, a process that doesn't require oxygen. This shift is inefficient and unsustainable, and it's at the heart of what drives cancer. Dr. Siffords' groundbreaking perspective suggests that the mutations often seen in cancer cells are not the cause, but the result of mitochondrial dysfunction. In other words, the mutations don't come first. The metabolic breakdown in the cell happens first, and the mutations follow. This flips the traditional view on its head, offering a completely new way of thinking about the origin of cancer. Imagine if we could target the metabolic dysfunction itself, rather than simply focusing on trying to repair the genetic mutations. Dr. Siffords believes that by addressing the root cause, mitochondrial damage, we could significantly reduce cancer rates and drastically improve treatment outcomes. This shift in focus could change the way we treat cancer, offering new hope for prevention and recovery. How cancer cells survive. The key difference between cancer cells and normal cells lies in how they produce energy. Healthy cells rely on mitochondria to create energy efficiently through a process known as oxidative phosphorylation. But cancer cells, due to damaged mitochondria, don't follow this rule. Instead, they switch to an alternative form of energy production, fermentation. Fermentation is a less efficient process that doesn't require oxygen, and it's the same way our muscles produce energy during intense exercise when oxygen is in short supply. But for cancer cells, fermentation becomes their primary method of energy production, even when oxygen is plentiful. This shift is known as the Warburg effect, and it's one of the hallmarks of cancer cells. But why do cancer cells rely on fermentation? The simple answer is that their mitochondria are no longer capable of producing energy through oxidative phosphorylation. Without functioning mitochondria, the cells must find another way to survive. This is where fermentation steps in, allowing the cells to continue growing, dividing, and avoiding death, exactly what cancer cells do. But here's the kicker. Fermentation is not a sustainable process. It's much less efficient than oxidative phosphorylation, and it's also a key reason why cancer cells rapidly consume glucose and glutamine. These two fuels become the primary energy sources for cancer cells, driving their uncontrollable growth. Cancer cells crave sugar, glucose, and an amino acid called glutamine, both of which fuel their ability to grow and spread. Because they rely so heavily on these fuels, cancer cells become extremely vulnerable to changes in the availability of glucose and glutamine. This is why Dr. Siffords' metabolic approach to cancer treatment is so powerful. By depriving cancer cells of these key nutrients, we can starve them and slow or even stop their growth. In contrast, healthy cells are much more adaptable. They can switch between using glucose, fat, and even ketones for energy, depending on what's available. This flexibility allows healthy cells to thrive even in less than ideal conditions, whereas cancer cells are trapped in their dependence on glucose and glutamine. So while cancer cells have found a way to survive, they are far less efficient than normal healthy cells. And by targeting their fuel sources, we can put the brakes on their growth and potentially prevent cancer from spreading further. This is the power of focusing on cancer as a metabolic disease. Practical strategies for preventing cancer. Now that we understand how cancer cells thrive on broken energy systems, the question becomes, how can we prevent this from happening in the first place? Dr. Thomas Siffords' groundbreaking work suggests that we can drastically reduce cancer risk by targeting the very metabolic pathways that fuel cancer growth. And the best part? We don't need to rely on toxic treatments or complicated procedures. Simple lifestyle changes can go a long way in supporting our mitochondrial health and keeping cancer cells at bay. One of Dr. Siffords' primary recommendations is adopting a ketogenic diet. This high-fat, low-carbohydrate approach forces the body to switch from burning sugar for energy to burning fat, a process called ketosis. This is crucial because cancer cells, which rely heavily on glucose, struggle to survive in a low-sugar environment. By drastically reducing carbohydrate intake, we essentially starve the cancer cells of their preferred fuel source, while still allowing healthy cells to thrive on fat. The ketogenic diet focuses on healthy fats like olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, and grass-fed butter, along with moderate amounts of protein from sources like pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught fish, and grass-fed meats. It's important to keep carbs to a minimum, especially refined sugars and processed foods. Non-starchy vegetables like spinach, broccoli, and cauliflower are excellent choices, as they provide nutrients without spiking blood sugar. Dr. Siffords even emphasizes the importance of healthy fats and proteins in maintaining mitochondrial function and supporting overall health. Intermittent fasting is another strategy Dr. Siffords promotes. By giving the body regular breaks from food, fasting reduces insulin levels and allows the body to enter a state of nutritional ketosis. This approach has been shown to enhance mitochondrial function, reduce inflammation, and, most importantly, limit the energy supply available to cancer cells. Even a simple practice of fasting for 16 hours and eating within an 8-hour window can have profound effects on cancer prevention. In addition to dietary changes, caloric restriction plays a key role in cancer prevention. Reducing the total number of calories consumed lowers metabolic stress, improves mitochondrial efficiency, and enhances the body's ability to fight off diseases like cancer. But it's not just about food. Exercise also has a huge impact on mitochondrial health. Regular physical activity helps keep mitochondria functioning at their best, supporting overall health and reducing the risk of chronic diseases like cancer. By combining these strategies, ketogenic eating, intermittent fasting, caloric restriction, and exercise, we can create an environment in our bodies that cancer cells find inhospitable. These approaches don't just prevent cancer, they also improve overall well-being, making them powerful tools for a long, healthy life. Dr. Siffords' metabolic approach to cancer prevention isn't just about avoiding cancer, it's about transforming the way we approach our health. By focusing on the mitochondrial dysfunction at the heart of cancer, we can shift our health strategy to one that prioritizes metabolic health, ultimately preventing not only cancer, but also a range of other chronic diseases. The Western lifestyle and cancer. One of the most pressing reasons cancer rates continue to rise is the modern Western lifestyle, which is contributing to widespread mitochondrial dysfunction and ultimately cancer. Dr. Thomas Sifford argues that the way we live today, characterized by poor diet, lack of exercise, and chronic stress, creates the perfect conditions for cancer to develop. While genetic mutations are often blamed, Dr. Sifford believes the real culprit is the damage we're doing to our mitochondria through our daily habits. The typical Western diet is heavily loaded with processed carbohydrates, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats. These foods flood the body with glucose, overwhelming our mitochondria and causing metabolic disruptions. When the body is constantly in a state of high glucose, the mitochondria struggle to keep up, and over time this leads to the metabolic dysfunction that can trigger cancer. The more we rely on fast food, sugary snacks, and processed meals, the harder it becomes for our cells to maintain healthy energy production. Add to this the lack of physical activity in modern life. Most people sit for long hours, whether at work or in front of screens, which means their bodies aren't engaging in the movement that's necessary to support mitochondrial health. Exercise is crucial for maintaining the energy systems of our cells, including the mitochondria. Without regular physical activity, mitochondrial function declines, making it harder for the body to fight off diseases like cancer. Chronic stress also plays a major role in mitochondrial damage. Modern jobs, personal pressures, and daily life stressors can lead to hormonal imbalances and inflammation, further harming mitochondria. This constant stress puts additional strain on the body, making it harder for cells to maintain their normal, healthy functions. Over time, this chronic stress can also impair the immune system, leaving the body more vulnerable to cancer. What's more, environmental factors such as pollution, exposure to toxic chemicals, and radiation also contribute to mitochondrial dysfunction. These environmental stressors can damage mitochondrial DNA, accelerating the process of cellular breakdown and increasing the risk of cancer. When we take a step back, it becomes clear. The Western lifestyle is a perfect storm for cancer development. High-stress, low-activity lifestyles, combined with poor diets and environmental toxins, create the ideal conditions for mitochondrial dysfunction. Dr. Sifford's work suggests that by making significant changes to how we live, improving our diet, reducing stress, exercising regularly, and being mindful of environmental toxins, we can dramatically lower our risk of cancer and other chronic diseases. By shifting away from a lifestyle that damages our mitochondria and adopting practices that nourish our cells, we can begin to reverse the damage and lower our cancer risk. It's time to take control of our health and prioritize mitochondrial function to create a body that resists cancer rather than one that invites it. How to starve cancer cells. Now that we understand how cancer cells survive and thrive by relying on damaged mitochondria and inefficient fermentation, the next step is to explore how we can starve these cancer cells of the very fuels they depend on. Dr. Thomas Sifford advocates for a strategy focused on depriving cancer cells of their two main sources of fuel, glucose and glutamine. By targeting these metabolic pathways, we can create an environment that makes it difficult for cancer cells to survive while allowing healthy cells to flourish. One of the most powerful ways to deprive cancer cells of glucose is through a ketogenic diet. This high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet shifts the body's metabolism from burning sugar for energy to burning fat. For cancer cells that rely heavily on glucose for energy, this creates a serious problem. Without glucose, cancer cells struggle to fuel their rapid growth, making them more vulnerable to damage. On a ketogenic diet, the body enters a state called nutritional ketosis, where fat is broken down into ketones that provide energy for healthy cells. Unlike cancer cells, healthy cells can easily adapt to burning ketones for energy, so they continue to thrive in this environment. In addition to the ketogenic diet, Dr. Sifford also emphasizes intermittent fasting as a tool to starve cancer cells. Intermittent fasting involves cycling between periods of eating and fasting, allowing the body to lower insulin levels and reduce blood sugar. When the body is in a fasted state, glucose availability is reduced, further limiting the energy supply to cancer cells. Not only does fasting lower glucose levels, but it also enhances mitochondrial function and reduces inflammation, creating an environment where cancer cells struggle to survive. But it's not just about cutting out sugar. Dr. Sifford also focuses on glutamine, an amino acid that cancer cells use for energy. Cancer cells rely on glutamine to fuel their growth, and by limiting its availability, we can make it even harder for cancer cells to survive. While glutamine is found in many protein-rich foods, Dr. Sifford advises moderating protein intake and focusing on healthy fats instead. This approach deprives cancer cells of the glutamine they crave while supporting overall health. In addition to these dietary strategies, Dr. Sifford promotes a lifestyle that includes regular exercise. Physical activity is key to maintaining healthy mitochondrial function and ensuring that your cells remain in a balanced, healthy state. Exercise also supports the body's ability to burn fat for energy, helping to sustain the benefits of a ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. By focusing on these metabolic strategies, limiting glucose and glutamine, adopting a ketogenic diet, fasting intermittently, and staying active, we can essentially starve cancer cells, cutting off their fuel supply and halting their growth. What's powerful about this approach is that it doesn't rely on toxic treatments or invasive procedures. Instead, it leverages the body's natural metabolic processes to fight cancer, offering a non-toxic, sustainable way to reduce cancer risk and promote overall health. Dr. Siffford's strategies are rooted in the science of mitochondrial function, and they offer a practical, life-changing way to tackle cancer head-on by starving cancer cells of the very nutrients they need to survive. The power of caloric restriction and fasting. In the fight against cancer, one of the most overlooked but highly effective strategies is caloric restriction. Dr. Thomas Siffford emphasizes that reducing overall calorie intake can have profound benefits on mitochondrial function, reduce cancer cell growth, and even improve longevity. The idea behind caloric restriction is simple. By lowering the number of calories we consume, we reduce metabolic stress on the body, which in turn allows mitochondria to work more efficiently. When we reduce calorie intake, the body enters a state of metabolic efficiency, meaning it becomes better at using available resources to fuel its essential functions. This shift improves mitochondrial performance, enhances the body's ability to fight off disease, and reduces inflammation, which is a major contributor to cancer development. While caloric restriction doesn't mean starvation, it does suggest that we should be mindful of how much we're eating and aim to avoid overeating, which can overwhelm our metabolic systems. Intermittent fasting, which involves cycles of eating and fasting, is another powerful tool in the fight against cancer. Dr. Siffford promotes intermittent fasting as a way to reduce insulin levels, improve mitochondrial function, and encourage the body to burn fat for fuel instead of relying on sugar. During fasting periods, the body has time to repair itself, remove damaged cells, and enter a state of autophagy, where it breaks down and eliminates dysfunctional cells, including potential cancer cells. This not only supports mitochondrial health, but also enhances the body's ability to regenerate and detoxify itself.